Learning English with English Faculties.
Hello there, ISC literature students. I am absolutely thrilled to be your guide through this explainer today. We're going to be looking at a brilliant and honestly highly entertaining piece from your Class 11 and 12 PRISM syllabus. It's Mark Twain's essay, Advice to Youth. Now, as your virtual professor today, I'm going to hand you the absolute secret weapon for acing your exam on this text. Are you ready? Here it is. You have to understand that Mark Twain almost never means what he literally says. Keep that in mind, and you're golden. So here is our lecture syllabus for today. Number 1, mastering satire and irony. 2, parents, superiors, and authority. 3, the fine art of lying. 4, firearms and adult hypocrisy. 5, reading and societal conformity. And finally, 6, a final exam theme review. Let's get right to it. Okay, let's dive into this. We are starting with our very first key term, and that is satire. Now, for your exams, you absolutely need to know this definition. Satire is basically a literary technique that uses humor, jokes, or wild exaggeration to critique human mistakes and expose the hypocrisy hidden in our society. You see, instead of giving this incredibly boring, preachy lecture to the young people in his audience, Twain uses clever jokes. Why? Because humor is actually the best way to truly reach the hearts and minds of youth. Next up, we have irony. Now, I know if you're a non-native English speaker, this concept can sometimes be a little tricky to spot, but it is literally the core tool you've got to master for this text. Irony is simply saying one thing, but meaning the exact opposite, usually to highlight a deeper truth. So when Twain gives a piece of quote-unquote advice, he's actually criticizing the adults who usually force that exact same advice onto young people. Make sense? Right from the opening paragraph, Twain adopts this wonderful, mock-serious tone. I want you to notice his use of the word didactic. Didactic just means intended to teach a moral lesson. So Twain sets up this whole expectation that he's going to give traditional, morally improving advice. But as we're going to see very soon, he is just pretending. It is a total setup. Section 2, Parents, Superiors, and Authority, Deconstructing Adult Power. Twain starts off with what sounds like perfectly normal, standard advice. He says, always obey your parents. But wait, I want you to really notice that crucial condition he tags on right at the end of the sentence, when they are present. I mean, wow, that completely changes the nature of the advice, doesn't it? To truly nail this for your exams, we have to compare the literal and the satirical meanings side by side. The literal meaning here is just, always be perfectly obedient. But the satirical meaning is radically different. Twain is actually telling the youth to merely perform obedience when their parents are watching. And why? Well, to appease the adults' superstition that they know better. By humoring them, the youth actually gain more freedom. So Twain is essentially teaching you a survival tactic to navigate adult hypocrisy, rather than preaching some absolute moral duty. Then he moves on to dealing with superiors and strangers, delivering this highly shocking quote, simply watch your chance and hit him with a brick. Okay, pause. Please do not write in your exam that Mark Twain is literally promoting physical violence. Again, let's look at the literal versus the satirical meaning. Literally, yes, this sounds like assault with a physical weapon, but the satirical meaning is so much deeper. Twain is using the brick as a metaphor. He's advising you to use the blunt brick of your independent thought to challenge those who disrespect you, regardless of their age or their status. He uses this really extreme wit to mock the rigid adult power structures, and honestly, the fake charity and kindliness of that historical era. Section 3, the fine art of lying, truth in a hypocritical world. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how Twain describes lying. Notice that he doesn't call it a sin. Not at all. He describes it as an accomplishment that requires immense practice. He even goes so far as to call it a gracious and beautiful art. Let's break down Twain's absolutely hyperbolic rules for lying. He claims lying requires extreme patience and diligence. Why? Because an awkward, clumsy lie is going to permanently ruin your reputation. A well-told lie, however, he says, is indestructible. Therefore, he jokes that beginners should probably just stick to the truth, because frankly, they aren't skilled enough yet. His real message here is a warning. He's saying the adult world actually relies heavily on sophisticated lies, so young people have to be incredibly careful not to get caught in that trap of societal hypocrisy. He brings up this anecdote about the ether monument, which brilliantly illustrates the tension between what society preaches and what it actually practices. The societal myth is that famous maxim, truth is mighty and will prevail. But Twain's reality? Well, he points to the Ether Monument in Boston. Historically, the man who truly discovered anesthesia had his ideas stolen by another man. Yet, the liar is the one who got the historical monument. Twain uses this to prove his underlying point that society often actually rewards successful liars, and a stolen idea can literally outlast the truth for 1,000,000 years.
Section 4, Firearms and Adult Hypocrisy, the Danger of Innocence. Twain starts this particular section with what seems like totally normal, protective advice. Never handle firearms carelessly. I mean, it sounds completely reasonable and responsible, right? Well, that perfectly sets up the completely absurd, exaggerated story that immediately follows. Here we get to see his hyperbole in full action. Twain tells this ridiculous story of a grandson who threatens his sweet old grandmother with an old, rusty musket. The poor old woman runs in absolute terror, even though the gun isn't loaded. Twain then makes this ridiculous claim that an unloaded gun is the most unerring, deadly weapon ever created. He goes as far as to imagine the entire historical Battle of Waterloo being fought with empty muskets, causing sheer chaotic panic. It's hilarious, but he's brilliantly using this hyperbole to mock human negligence and the false sense of security that ignorance provides. I highly, highly recommend taking notes on these specific themes for your exam prep. Notice the overarching tension Twain creates here. On one side, we have youth innocence, represented by the grandson. This highlights a kind of carelessness born of incomplete training. But on the other side, we have glaring adult hypocrisy. Adults are out there creating devastating weapons like Gatling guns and starting massive, deadly wars, yet society turns around and gravely lectures the youth on violence and negligence. It's an unbelievably powerful social critique.
Section 5, Reading and Societal Conformity, the Ultimate Realization.
Now we reach the final paragraph. I want you to note his use of the word precepts. Precepts basically mean rules or instructions. Twain concludes his address by talking about how to build one's character, urging the youth to painstakingly build their lives upon his precepts.
But look at the stark contrast between the instruction and the outcome. His didactic instruction is to read dry, religious sermons and, quite humorously, his own books to build an ethical character. But what is the true punchline of this entire essay? He tells them that if you follow all this adult advice perfectly, you'll be surprised and gratified to see how nicely your character resembles everybody else's. That is the chilling truth right there. Society demands sameness. It punishes uniqueness. If you follow all their rules perfectly, you just become a conformist clone.
Section 6, Final Exam Theme Review, Synthesizing the Critique.
So, the crucial point for your exam is understanding exactly how these literary devices deliver serious social critiques. Let's walk through these concepts one last time. For satire and irony, Twain tells you to lie well. Your exam takeaway? He is exposing adult dishonesty. Never take him literally. For hyperbole, he uses the Waterloo with empty muskets example. The takeaway there is that he's highlighting the absurdity of human error. And finally, for social critique, he says to hit him with a brick. The major takeaway is that he desperately wants you to challenge traditional societal norms and blind obedience.
This leaves us with a final, very provocative question for you to consider, both for your upcoming exam and, frankly, for your own life. Will you blindly conform to the hypocrisy of the adult world, or will you use your youth to truly think for yourself? Twain wrote this essay well over a century ago, but his challenge to independent thought remains exactly the same for you today. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Study hard, good luck on your exams, and above all, don't forget to think for yourselves.